Tonight, we're cutting through the noise. In a world where headlines change by the minute and opinions flood every screen, it's easy to miss the seismic shifts happening right beneath our feet. But tonight, we're not just reporting the news, we're helping you understand how it directly impacts your life, your rights, and your future. If you own a gun in America, the legal ground just shifted under your feet. Whether you're a lifelong collector, a first-time buyer, or someone who simply wants to keep your family safe, the rules you thought you knew have changed, almost overnight. Millions of Americans are now facing a new legal reality, one that could affect how you store, carry, and even talk about your firearms. A wave of federal court decisions has torn apart decades of gun control. Judges across the country have issued rulings that challenge the very foundation of laws that have stood for generations. These aren't just minor tweaks. These are sweeping changes that have left lawmakers, law enforcement, and citizens scrambling to keep up. The old rules are gone. Laws that once seemed set in stone are now being questioned, rewritten, or thrown out entirely. The legal landscape is shifting so quickly that even experts are struggling to keep track. 10 massive changes are already in effect. One so shocking, what was a 10-year federal prison sentence is now your constitutional right. Imagine waking up to find that something you thought was a serious crime is now protected by the highest law in the land. That's the kind of upheaval we're talking about tonight. We're diving deep into the court documents and decisions that are quietly reshaping your rights. Behind every headline is a story, and behind every story is a set of legal arguments and precedents that could change the way you live. We've poured over hundreds of pages of legal briefs, rulings, and expert opinions to bring you the facts you need to know. The rulebook has been thrown out. The guidelines that once governed what you could and couldn't do with your firearms are now up in the air. For many, this means uncertainty and confusion, but it also means opportunity and new questions about what comes next. Let's break down the 10 most significant changes happening right now. We'll walk you through each one, explain what it means for you, and help you navigate this new era of gun rights in America. Stay with us as we uncover the details that matter most to you and your family. For decades, whenever questions about the Second Amendment, your right to keep and bear arms, came before the courts, judges faced a difficult balancing act. On one side was your constitutional right to own firearms. On the other, the government's responsibility to protect public safety. Time and again, courts weighed these interests against each other, trying to find a middle ground. But in practice, this balancing act almost always tipped in favor of the government. Your rights, more often than not, took a back seat to concerns about regulation and control. And your rights usually lost. People who challenged gun laws in court were met with disappointment. Legal challenges were routinely rejected, and judges rarely sided with individuals seeking to protect their Second Amendment freedoms. The system seemed stacked against gun owners, and many felt powerless to change the outcome. But now, everything has changed. That era is over. The Supreme Court has thrown out the old playbook, rewriting the rules for how gun laws are judged. In a landmark decision, the highest court in the land made it clear, the old standards no longer apply. Now, strict scrutiny is the law of the land. This is the toughest standard in constitutional law. Under strict scrutiny, any gun regulation is no longer assumed to be reasonable or necessary. Instead, it's presumed unconstitutional from the start. The government can't just say a law is for public safety, they have to prove it, and the bar is set incredibly high. The government must now show that any gun law serves a truly compelling interest, something absolutely essential, not just preferable, and even then, the law must be narrowly tailored, meaning it can't be broader than necessary. It must be the least restrictive way to achieve its goal. This is an almost impossible standard to meet, and it puts enormous pressure on lawmakers and government attorneys. As a result, laws that stood for generations, laws that were once considered untouchable, are now being dismantled. Courts are striking down regulations that have been on the books for decades. Legal precedents are being overturned, and the landscape of gun rights is shifting rapidly. The burden of proof has flipped. No longer do citizens have to prove why they should keep their rights. Now, it's the state that must justify every restriction, every regulation, every law. The government must convince the courts, and ultimately the people, that its actions are justified. This is nothing short of a legal earthquake. The shift to strict scrutiny is the foundation for every other change we'll discuss in this series. It's sending shockwaves through the legal system, forcing lawmakers, judges, and citizens alike to rethink what's possible when it comes to gun rights and regulations. The power has shifted in a dramatic way. For gun rights advocates, this is the biggest legal victory in modern history, a turning point that will shape the future of the Second Amendment for generations to come. For years, law enforcement had qualified immunity, even when violating your Second Amendment rights. That shield is cracking. Courts are holding officers personally liable for violations. Now, if an officer illegally seizes your firearm or denies your permit, you can sue them directly. Officers can face real personal financial consequences. This isn't anti-police, it's pro-constitution. Departments must train officers to respect your rights. The message: the badge is not a license to ignore the Constitution. Accountability is finally becoming reality. Red flag laws once allowed secret, one-sided hearings to seize your guns. That's over. Courts now require a full hearing before your rights are suspended. You can face your accuser, cross-examine, and present evidence. The state must prove, with clear and convincing evidence, that atin pawan rukau would sting tweet bo bain condider der all were awan down pawan den. Hearsay and fear aren't enough. Facts are required. If you're cleared, your property must be returned immediately or the state is liable. Due process is restored. The government is now accountable for its actions. The courts have slammed the door on a national gun registry. The ATF's digital database of gun owners has been ordered destroyed. Federal rulings now block the government from tracking who owns which firearms. These decisions are battering state-level registries too. Your right to privacy is affirmed. You don't have to submit your name to a government list for exercising a constitutional right. Mass confiscation schemes are now logistically and legally impossible. Your firearm ownership is your business, period. For years, the government has engaged in warrantless surveillance of gun owners, quietly tracking purchases, monitoring social media activity, and flagging credit card transactions related to firearms. These actions have raised serious concerns about privacy and civil liberties as ordinary citizens found themselves under scrutiny simply for exercising their constitutional rights. Imagine buying a firearm or ammunition for sport, self-defense, or collection, only to have your personal information quietly logged and analyzed by unseen officials. This kind of surveillance has cast a shadow over law-abiding Americans, making them feel watched and judged for perfectly legal activities. But now, this era of unchecked government monitoring is being dismantled by the courts. Judges across the country are recognizing that such surveillance oversteps constitutional boundaries and undermines the very freedoms our nation was built upon. Legal challenges have forced a reckoning, and the judiciary is stepping in to restore the balance between security and liberty. Buying a gun or ammunition is not, and should never be, considered suspicious behavior. Millions of Americans responsibly purchase firearms every year for a variety of lawful reasons. These transactions are a normal part of life for many, and do not justify blanket suspicion or invasive monitoring. The government cannot simply bypass the Constitution by pressuring private companies to act as its eyes and ears. Using tech firms or financial institutions to collect and share data on gun owners without due process is a violation of fundamental rights. The courts are making it clear, your privacy cannot be outsourced. If authorities have legitimate reasons to suspect criminal activity, they must obtain a warrant, supported by probable cause and approved by a judge. No more dragnet surveillance, no more fishing expeditions. The legal process is being reaffirmed as the only path to investigate potential crimes. The restoration of the Fourth Amendment's protections goes hand in hand with the Second Amendment. Together, they ensure that Americans can exercise their rights, both to privacy and to bear arms, without fear of unwarranted government intrusion. You are not a suspect by default simply because you own a firearm. Responsible gun owners are neighbors, friends, and family members who value safety and freedom. The presumption of innocence is once again being recognized as a cornerstone of our justice system. Law enforcement must now focus their efforts on real threats, actual criminal activity and genuine dangers to public safety, not on law-abiding citizens who follow the rules. Resources are being redirected to where they are truly needed. Your privacy and the presumption of innocence are being protected once again. Americans can feel secure knowing that their rights are respected and that the government is being held accountable to the Constitution. May issue carry permits are dead. The Supreme Court has made clear, the right to carry is a right, not a privilege. States must issue permits if you meet objective criteria. No more subjective denials. Strict deadlines are enforced. If the state delays, your permit is approved by default. Excessive fees are being struck down. Permits must be affordable. The right to self-defense is for everyone, not just the wealthy. The process is now simple, fast, and fair. No more begging for permission. The Constitution, not bureaucrats, decides your rights. Ammunition restrictions, background checks for every box, bans on online sales are being struck down. Courts affirm, the right to bear arms includes the right to acquire ammunition. Laws that made buying ammo difficult or expensive are failing strict scrutiny. The government can't price you out of your rights. Online sales and direct shipping are being restored. You're trusted as a law-abiding citizen. The courts are protecting your right to be prepared. The ATF's crackdown on gun dealers for minor paperwork errors is being reined in. Courts now require proof of willful criminal intent before revoking a license. Honest mistakes can't destroy a business. Dealers get due process, a fair hearing before a judge, not just an ATF administrator. The ATF's role is shifting to guidance, not punishment. Protecting dealers protects your access to legal firearms. The infrastructure of gun ownership is being safeguarded. The ATF's attempt to reclassify pistols with stabilizing braces as illegal SBRs threatened millions with prison. Courts overturned the rule, halting enforcement nationwide. The ATF exceeded its authority. Only Congress can make such laws. The rule was vague and impossible to follow. What was a potential 10-year sentence is now your constitutional right again. This is a rebuke of bureaucratic overreach. Your rights can't be erased by unelected agencies. Assault weapon bans in states like California and New York are collapsing under strict scrutiny. Courts are striking down bans on popular rifles, citing the common use test. The state can't prove these bans are necessary or effective. Millions of AR-15s are used lawfully. Banning them contradicts Supreme Court precedent. The legal foundation for these bans is crumbling. The fight isn't over, but momentum is on the side of the Constitution. The tide has turned. 10 fundamental shifts have redrawn the legal landscape for gun rights. The government is on defense, the Constitution is on offense. But every victory is being challenged. Appeals and political opposition continue. Knowing and defending your rights is more important than ever. This is about liberty, not just guns. The courts have sided with freedom, for now. It's up to all of us to keep it that way. Be smart, be safe, and stay free.